Bro, I don't ask for enough stuff to be like, what?
Okay, so you'll need your calculator for the first two. So you can see what the graph looks like. Okay, there's still a few of you that are having issues once you get it graphed. Okay, so again, hit y equals and then put it in there, 2x cubed. How many zeros am I thinking I should see? 3, right? But we only see 1, right? So what's that telling you? If you only see 1, there's 2 imaginary ones, yes. Okay, so we're going to have to do a little work to find the other 2. All right, so this, and then some of you are having trouble figuring out what that is. Okay, it's between 1 and 2. If you go to your table, are you going to see it? One down. Thanks. All right, so when you look at it, you can tell the answer is between 1 and 2. Okay, the way to find it is go to second trace. All right, the button right next to graph. All right, and then we're looking for the 0. So I hit 2, and then it's going to be left bound. It's blinking down here. Is the is the cursor left of this point right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can hit enter right away. I hit your right arrow key and your cursor will move to the right. And you just got to get above it now so that you're right of it. And hit enter. And then for guess, you got to hit enter one more time. Some of you, I think, are forgetting to hit enter at this point and using these 2 numbers. Okay, once you hit enter, you want the y to be 0, remember? And you get that 1.5. Okay? All right, so there's, if you want to put it on top of there, right? There's our 0. Okay? So now, to figure out the other 2, the imaginary ones, okay, I'm going to have to do the synthetic division. So I put my 1.5 in the little corner, and I got a 3, 2, a 1, and a constant, so I don't have to add any zeros. And I'm going to get a 0 here. If I don't, then I did something wrong. Okay, the calculator told us what the 0 is, so it's supposed to work. All right, so you drop the 2 down. 1.5 times 2 is 3. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2. All right, so 1.5 times 2 again is 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. And 1.5 times 4 is 6. And then we get our 0. Okay, so remember, this started out as x cubed here. So this one's x squared. Okay, so my problem now is 2x squared, the one I have to solve, plus 2x plus 4, since there's no sign, equals 0. That's the problem I have to solve now. Okay, I'm going to have to use the quadratic formula. It doesn't factor. Okay. Again, when you know it's going to be imaginary, it's not going to factor. So you're going to have to use the quadratic formula. Again, here it is again. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus, some of us are putting plus there, it's minus 4 times a times C. All over 2 times A. You guys should know that now. You've done it enough. Write it down a few times so you remember. So I'm just going to substitute 2 in for B, 2 in for A, and 4 in for C. So negative B, again, here's the A, here's the B, here's the C. Plus or minus B squared minus 4 times A times C. 2A. You guys have done this before. So I get negative 2 out front. After the mess goes. And 4 in the bottom. And I'm going to get a sum radical here. Don't put it all in your calculator, remember. Just put the 2 squared minus 4 times 2 times 4. All right? So 2 squared is 4. Minus 4 times 2 is 8 times 4 is 32. So that's a negative 28. That's where our imaginary comes from. Negative under the radical sign, right? You guys should know how to simplify that. You've simplified this many times, this type of problem. 4 is a perfect square, so the square root of 4 is 2. So this is negative 2 plus or minus 2i because of the negative, and then the 7 is left, all over 4. Well, since all these 3 numbers here are even, I can divide 2 into it. So the answer, the other 2 answers are negative 1 plus or minus I, or 1i, radical 7 over 2. There's 2 problems, 2 answers there. So these are the 2 imaginary, and the other one was what, 125, right? There's our third one. Those are 3 zeros for that problem. Okay. Number 2, any questions? Okay, so the negative 1 plus I radical 7 over 2 is one of them, and negative 1 minus I radical 7. Right, there's 2, that plus or minus means there's 2 problems there. Any other questions? Okay, so we couldn't see them all on that one. That's why we had to do that extra work. This one, number 2, you can see them all, so you can just find them on the calculator. Now, I'll show you how to find the other 2. Well, one of them's a whole number, the rest are fractions or decimals, right? Okay, but you got to remember when you do if you do synthetic on this one, what do you got to do? What's missing? You got to add a 0 for the x, right? Between the 17 and the negative 4. If you go that route. This one you don't really have to. You can find all 4 of them on the calculator. So either way is fine with me. Okay. Clear it out. Start over. 3x to the 4 minus 14x to the 3rd plus 17x squared minus 4. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you got to watch this one. It goes below it just a little bit. Some of you didn't look real close and thought it bounced there. Okay, I think that's a 2 right there. If you go to the table, that's the only one I think you can see. Is the 2, yeah. Okay. As far as on your table, because we got it in whole numbers. Morning, Oscar. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 2 really close there. Okay? Because you can see it goes a little bit below there. So you just got to pay attention to that. Okay? So I know this one was the 2 right there. Okay, but I'm gonna find this one over here on the left using the calculator. Second trace 0, and left of it, I just gotta hit left a couple times. Make sure I'm above it. That's left. Right of it, make sure I'm below it, and then yes. So negative 0.414. I think that's negative the square root of 2, I think. Maybe not. Maybe it's negative 1. Maybe it's 1 minus the square root of 2. I think that's what it is. And then this one, do the same thing. Just hit second trace again. 2 for 0. And to be left of it, you got to be below it. All right, so I'm below it. I'm going to hit enter. And then right of it, I'm going to hit enter. And then the guess. That's 0.6 repeating, which is what fraction? 2/3. Yeah. Okay. Looks like 2 over 3 over 0.6, but that's not what I did. That's just the bar for the. All right. Might as well, since we got 3, I might as well just finish it this way. But I'll show you something just in case you get stuck. Okay. Now left of it, this is going to be hard. You're going to have to get below. Right? We got to get below to be left of it, above to be right of it, for this far right one. So you got to kind of watch here, see what's going on. I know I'm below it because it's a negative y value there. So I'm going to hit enter. And then I know I'm above it because it's over 1 there, over 0, positive. So it's 2.414. This stuff should say 0. I don't know why it does that sometimes. Okay, but let me show you that don't use 0.6 when you do this. So I would use 2 first. But remember, I have to add a 0 after the 17 for the x, and then the negative 4. And that's where some of you were trying to do it, I think, this way, and then you forgot about the 0. That's why it didn't work out for you. 2 times 3 is 6. Add those, you get negative 8. 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. Add those, you get 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Add, you get 2. And 2 times 2 is 4. Then you get the 0. Okay? Don't put just 0.6 here. It will not work. Okay? If you're going to use the decimal, put a bunch of 6's in. Okay? So I'm going to do, I'm going to use 2/3, but when I put in the calculator, I'll show you something. All right, so we're going to use 2/3 next. Okay? If you go 0.6 times 3, you're going to get that. If you go a bunch of them, let the calculator know. See the difference? The answer is 2. I would use the fraction because that's always going to be right. So just put it in parentheses, and you'll get your 2. All right? And then that's negative 6. Okay? And then you can hit second enter if you want, and it'll put the same thing. Go back and use the negative 6 then. You get negative 4. 1 plus a negative 4 is a negative 3. Hit second enter again, and then change that to a negative 3. And it should be a negative 2. and then it works out. Okay? So some of you were trying to do this yesterday and use the 0.6. You're on the right track, but if you round that 0.6, it doesn't give you the exact numbers you want to get that 0. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So my suggestion is to use the fraction. Okay? Z, is this making sense to you?
Yeah.
Good. All right. So then you could use quadratic formula if you want here to find those other two. That negative 0.414 is, I think it's 1 plus or minus the square root of 2 when you're all done. Let me see my answers because I did it that way. Yeah, it's 1 plus the square root of 2 and 1 minus the square root of 2. We'll get you the 2.414 and the negative 0.414. But again, if you just want to go and find the decimals on your calculator, because you could see all 4 of them, that's okay. All right? All right, so those shouldn't be too bad. Number 3 is really easy. Okay? When you're given zeros, to find the polynomial that goes with them, you always start with your factors. Your factors always start as x minus. So I need 3 of them. There's no radicals, no i's that I have to double up. These are just numbers. So you just put the numbers in. X minus 1, x minus negative 4, which is what? Just plus 4, right? And x minus 5. Now this one doesn't matter which 2 you do first, because there's no radicals, there's no i's. Okay? So just FOIL it. I'm just going to do the first 2 first. So first is x squared, outside is positive 4x, inside is negative 1x, last is negative 4, which is x squared plus 3x minus 4. And then I multiply by the x minus 5. Okay, some of you did this part, then you stop. Okay, you got to multiply it all out to get all your terms. Okay, so when I go these two, x squared times x is x cubed, and x squared times negative 5 is negative 5x squared. Then I take the 3x and multiply both. 3x times x is a positive 3x squared. And 3x times negative 5 is negative 15x. And then I go negative 4 times x, negative 4 times negative 5. Then combine my like terms. So negative 2x squared minus 19x plus 20. And when you guys were showing me yesterday, when you turned them in, most of you got that one right. Morning. Okay, any questions on that one? Mason, you with me? This last one. Okay, some of you messed this up a little bit. Okay? We started the same way we started number 3. Right? X minus. There's 5. X minus. And it says 2 plus I. So you write 2 plus I. And then you write x minus again. And this one says 2 minus I. So that's what you write. Okay? Any issues with that? Now, this is important. You have to multiply these 2 first. Okay, if you don't, then you get a bunch of i's hanging around. When you multiply those 2 first, the i's will get all canceled out. Okay? Don't forget the x minus in front of those. That's the mistake a lot of kids will make. So when I FOIL this, I'm going to take the x times all 3. So there's 3 answers. The negative 2 times all 3. That's 3 more answers. And the I times all 3. That's 3 more. So there's 9 answers. You have 9 terms. Okay, but some of them will be opposites that'll cancel out for you. Okay? So x times x times negative 2, and x times negative I. Again, it doesn't matter if you go xi or ix. I always just go alphabetical. Okay, then I'm gonna go negative 2 times x, which those would be like terms. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. And negative 2 times negative I is a positive 2i. So there's the next 3. And then the last 3 are I times x is positive ix. So those are going to cancel. All right. I times negative 2 is negative 2i. So those cancel. And then I got, remember, there are 1's in front of these, right? So it's a positive 1i times a negative 1i, which is a negative 1i squared. We know that I squared equals what? Negative 1. So that's like a negative 1 times a negative 1. So actually, this is adding 1. All right, so when I combine my like terms now, I got my x minus 5. And then this answer is going to be x squared minus 4x plus 5, 4 plus 1. Some of you had 3 there. You subtract it. Remember, minus 1i squared is plus 1. So that was a mistake some of you made yesterday when you showed. Now we just finish up. All right, x times x squared, x times negative 4x, and x times 5. Negative 5 times x squared, negative 5 times a negative 4x, and negative 5 times a positive 5. And then combine your like terms to finish up. So we got x cubed minus 9x squared plus 25x minus 25. Okay? Not going to try to mess with you yesterday, tomorrow. There's 2 problems like the first 2 we did. Graph them. Find the zeros. You might have to do some synthetic division. All right, and then 3 and 4, multiply. Write them as factors, x minus. Any questions? Simple, right? All right, that's all I got.